You might be thinking, Japan has so many game stores. How am I going to get all those awesome games back home? You might have a small luggage allowance like I did. I only had 10 kilos to work with. So what you can do is you can ship games back to your home country. Now, if you've ever bought a game off eBay, you know it can be quite expensive to have it shipped from Japan. I've paid up to $30 for a single game before. However, what you can do is send large boxes like this for a fraction of the cost. And you can do this if you send it via C-mail. Now, C-mail works out to be quite cheap. I sent this box, which weighed 12 kilos, back to Australia for around $95. US, that's about $60 to $65. The caveat is it will take around 6 to 8 weeks to arrive. So if you can be patient and wait 6 to 8 weeks, you can get your games delivered for a fraction of the cost. Next, I'm going to go through the hardware required to play your Japanese games at home. The good news is, for the PS3, 4 and 5, you can use your current console, and for the majority of games, they are not region locked. So I have Parappa the Rapper here. That will just work in my PS4 or PS5. I have Rain. That will work on an original PS3. Doesn't have to be a Japanese PS3. So I've been playing this over the last few days. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky is when you get into the more retro titles of the PS2 and the PS1. You might remember that the PS3 plays PS1 games. However, it doesn't play Japanese PS1 games. I tried Ridge Racer and it didn't work. So this is what you will need. Now, most people are probably familiar with the original big, sometimes called the fat PS2. Now, this is the one you don't want. This is my PAL Australian PS2. That plays all my PAL games fine. But when you're looking to play Japanese games, you really want to try and find yourself a PS2 Slim. Now, there's a reason for this, and it comes down to voltage. So in Japan, I believe they run off 100 volts. In Europe and the US, I believe they run at a higher voltage, 120 in the US. And here in Australia, we're living in the future, we are around 250 volts. So if I plugged in this console, well, or a PS2 big console, and just plugged it straight into the wall, and it run 250 volts through a 100 volt machine, it's going to cook that straight away. Because the power brick is internal in the original PS2. What you do need with a Slim is you'll need to find yourself a 8-pin power cable, like the original here, with an external brick. And that will help regulate the voltage to play that no matter what country you're in. So I bought this off eBay. I believe it's an official Sony one for $30. So it was pretty cheap. Now I hook this up, I hook up my PS2, and off I go. What you also would need, well, you don't necessarily need, but if your TV still has component cables, that's okay as well. But what I use is a good quality component to HDMI upscaler. So you put your components in here. It has a little power adapter that you need to plug in as well. Runs to a HDMI adapter, and then you can play all your original games on the original hardware on a modern television. So I have Fantavision here for the PS2 and Ridge Racer Revolution. If I pop that in, then you can play away. Now, I know there are other options such as modding. I'm not going to go into that here. This is for people who are looking at the original hardware. My recommendation would be to purchase one of these PS2 Slims and go from there. Okay, I'm going to go through the games now that I shipped back from Japan. I was at a Super Potato and there was a 100 yen vending machine, which I managed to secure my very first try, this weird PSP game, which I think came with 2 discs and a copy of Super Mario World on the DS, which looks pretty awesome. So I'll show you very quickly. Which is pretty cool to have in your collection, and this person looks like they've cleared the game, which is amazing. I only got one PS4 game, which is Parappa the Rapper, and that's because this game didn't get a physical release in PAL regions, I believe. but also I'm not sure if they did this game justice remastering it for modern systems. But anyway, I have a physical copy. A couple of my really big hitters that I was looking for was Rain on the PS3. Now, this game was only released in Japan and then I believe Hong Kong and Taiwan in English. So the Hong Kong, Taiwan versions go for about $500, $600, $700 as well. This Japanese version was about $35, and hopefully I can put this up on the channel sometime as well. Comes with awesome themes on the disc and a soundtrack and a special video. Another game I was looking for, still stuck on the PS3, and hopefully I pronounce it correctly, Boku No Natsuyasumi 3 Summer Holidays 20th Century. I could only find the best version. I was looking for an original version, still pretty pricey. This one was around $35 as well, and I think a non-best version goes for $50 or $60. So I've had a little blast of that as well. I picked up Robotics Notes. I'm a huge fan of the Steins Gate series. I played Steins Gate 0, looking to go through Chaos Child and Chaos Head as well. A lot of these games I picked up, I know I'm not going to be able to play, not knowing Japanese, but they were fairly cheap. As you can see, 380 yen, so around $4 or $3 US, which is pretty awesome. I picked up Grand Theft Auto 4, 270 yen. I got a lot of these games from Book Off, Hard Off, Suragaya, Super Potato, Beep as well in Akihabara, so pretty cool just to have the Japanese versions, especially if they're not very much money. Got Trials of Heroes, Legend of Heroes, Trials of Cold Steel. I've played this on the Vita and the PS3, but I think the PS4 version I played. Just cool to have. I tried to pick up my favorite RPG series in Japanese as well, especially when the value was so good. Tales of Vesperia, 308 yen. Now, if you go to Super Potato, they'll tend to write on if there's anything wrong with it, sometimes missing a manual or the disc has the tiniest scratch. And Japanese have such high standards that that'll immediately disc out the game down to barely nothing. So Tales of Vesperia, played about halfway through that one. Another game I've played originally on the PS3, still stuck on the PS3, Tonelico Knell of RCL, just 200 yen. I think this was from Beep in Akihabara. They had a clearance section, haven't opened it yet, but played that on the PS3 back in the day. Another favorite of mine, a PS3 classic, but now released on the PS4 if you would like to play it, Star Ocean The Last Hope International. I really liked this game. I didn't play 5. I've played to the end of time, which is 3. I've played this. I didn't play 5, but I have the latest Star Ocean ready to be played on the PS5. So once I have finished Final Fantasy 16 and I finish Bravely Default 2, I will get to it next. Another one of my favorite series. I'm going to blast these both up here. Disgaea 3 and 4, I've played both of these. Awesome, awesome games. I think we're up to Disgaea 6, but 3 is probably my favorite, and I enjoyed 4. I didn't play 5, and I played a little bit of 6, but just cool to have for a couple of hundred yen each as well for the collection. For some reason, Street Fighter 4, 200 yen. So again, a game that you can play without knowing much Japanese. I tried to pick a mix of games that I really liked, like RPGs, and games that you can play without knowing a lot of Japanese. Another contentious game, Final Fantasy 13-2. Some people are fans of the 13 series, some people are not. Yeah, I'm a little bit indifferent. I got about halfway through this game and then the time travel got a little bit confusing, and then I think I moved on to something else. Here's a couple of games I'm not really too sure about, but I got it because it's a move game, so I try and find cheap move games, and remember when 3D was a thing, so I remember being really excited to get my 3D TV, and I got the glasses at $100 a pop, and then I barely used it. I remember playing Killzone 3 in 3D, and it was horrible, and I think Sonic Generations as well, but this looks like a move fighting game. This one, I looked it up before, but I've forgotten. I think it may be some sort of Tekken spin-off, but it might not be, but it's 110 yen, so very cheap. And once I knew I could post games, I got a little bit crazy. I mean, it's literally $1. What can you buy for $1 these days? $1, like a game for 110 yen. So actually, if you are in the US, it's about 70 cents. So I think this is Gundam Extreme Versus. Fighting robots, pretty awesome. Another PS3 game here, Beat Sketch. Oh, I mean a move game. 110 yen. I mean, what more can you say? I do have a Move as well, because I have a PSVR. I don't have PSVR 2 yet though, so if you enjoy it, let me know down below. And if you haven't flicked a like down the bottom or commented or subscribed, please do so. There is plenty on the channel to check out. Another series I have played, Dragon's Dogma, I really liked the original. I believe, is Dark Arisen a sequel or is it a whole new game? I don't really know. I think it was a bit confusing. Is it just this game? Is it like Dragon Age Origins Awakening, where this is just the full game with an expansion, or is it a whole new game? I don't really know. But I did play original Dragon's Dogma, which I really liked. So, well, yep, it's another $1 a pop. So I put it in. And 270 yen, the Idol Master. I kind of like these weird singing rhythm games. I have Love Live on the Vita. I've got 3 of those games, which it's a bit like Persona, Dancing All Night, or Dancing in Starlight, or Dancing in Moonlight. So that's pretty cool too. Also, what I got is for my Saturn, I got another controller. So it's about $15. I only have one controller, so I'd like to play with, friends when I ever have a friend to come around and say, hey, let's play some Sega Saturn. And I've got 2 controllers instead of 1. And I got this cart, which I think is like the ROM cart, which allows you to play the Japanese games on your PAL or your US Saturn, I think, but it was pretty confusing. So I got it anyway, and if it doesn't work out, so be it. I didn't really pick up too many Saturn games, as you'll see. It got a little bit confusing. All right, we're going to move on to the Vita games as well. So I did pick up a couple. I love my Vita. Have about 50 games for the Vita. Minecraft, Japanese version for the Vita, I thought was a really cool pickup for $3. There weren't too many cheap Vita games, and I wasn't going to get too many of them if I couldn't play them or they were interesting, but little RPG, Phantasy Star Nova, $3. It seemed to be, I got all these from, I think, a Book Off. So sometimes Book Off just have small game collections, but I found some good stuff at Book Offs. Hard Offs tended to be bigger and a little bit more expensive, but I found some good stuff. There was a Book Off near my hotel in Shinjuku. So that was the first night I was there. I got quite a lot of these games, and I thought the other Book Offs were going to be as good, and not all of them were. And then, this little kind of stylized baseball game, which is popular, but because it's popular, it's kind of like the FIFA of baseball games. So these go dirt cheap. I think I got the PS3 versions of these games like posted for a couple of dollars over as well. Next, I'm going to go on to a couple of CDs that I got as well. Like, I know old school indeed. So I got the Persona 4 soundtrack. One of my absolute favorite games. I'm currently replaying this on the Xbox Series X, doing a bit of remote play in the evenings, which is pretty cool. And this was brand new, and this was under the Starbucks at Shibuya Scramble. So if you go to Shibuya Scramble and you see the giant Starbucks, and there's a kind of media game DVD store. I think the games are in the basement floor, so you can check that out. That's pretty cool. I forgot the name of it. So that was about $35. It was pretty pricey, but it is brand new. Whereas I got this from a Hard Off, which is the Final Fantasy VIII original soundtrack, about $8 to $9, $6 US. I used to have the 7 soundtrack back in the day, but I moved around a bit, so I ended up moving that on, which is a shame. But 8, I absolutely love this game. Played it a lot. I know it's a little bit contentious, but it's still an absolutely awesome game, especially now if you can play it with the ×3 speed and you can draw really quickly, which is Awesome as well. Before I move into the PS2, I picked up a little memory card as well. It was like $8, so I thought, always looking for them. They're a little bit tricky to find as well nowadays. So got a little memory card. Oh, there we go. That's where this one was hiding. GTA 5 as well on the PS3. I thought I had that somewhere. Just cool to have for a few dollars as well. On to PS2. Now, I am a big wrestling fan, so I was trying to track down all the wrestling games. So I got Wrestle Kingdom 2, about $30, I think, or $25 to $30. So it wasn't cheap, but rest in peace, Terry Funk. Up here, there were some games that Ukes made. They made the SmackDown series, but some of these obviously didn't get Western releases, but the formula is pretty similar. So I have King of Colosseum, and I've got All-Star Pro Wrestling, and I was looking for these two kind of Wrestle Kingdom games. And interesting is kind of how the Wrestle Kingdom event came about in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I did go to New Japan Pro Wrestling Independence Day as well at Korakuen Hall, so that was an absolute highlight of the trip. Speaking of more wrestling, All-Star Pro Wrestling 2. I did have this game posted from Japan last year, and inside was Mr. Mosquito, so he's pretty bummed out about that. But for 400 yen, yes please. I've got 1 and 3 as well, so that rounds out the collection. I love seeing the WWE games as well. In Japanese, so SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, and in Japanese, or in Japan, they kept the numbers up. So there was SmackDown 1 and 2, 3 was Just Bring It, Shut Your Mouth was 4, Here Comes the Pain was 5. But in Japan, they kept numbering them as well. They didn't just call them Shut Your Mouth. Story mode is amazing. I haven't played story mode on the channel, but I've played SmackDown versus Raw 06, 07, so check that out. Have a look through. I've got a playlist with all my SmackDown versus Raw playthroughs, Road to WrestleManias, heaps and heaps of stuff, so check it out. I feel it's a bit underrated. It's got lost in the algorithm over time. Dragon Ball Z for like $1. I mean, awesome, awesome, awesome if you are into that as well. Dead or Alive 2, again, fighting games, easy to play. If you don't know any Japanese, we've got Ridge Racer, iconic Japanese series made by Namco, another $1. So car racing, you don't need to know a lot of Japanese for that. Well, this is snuck in here. This is the original SmackDown versus Raw. I loved the blue and the red eyes as well. That was pretty cool. So about $8 for this one as well. It might have come from a Super Potato from memory. And I think a good thing, if you're looking for a niche game or a wrestling game or a game in particular, what I would do is just show the staff a picture of the game you're looking for. And sometimes they've got it out the back and they can get it for you. So I got a couple of games from here that I just showed the staff member pictures, and then I kind of just said, any Puriso, any wrestling games, any Puriso, bring them all out, and I will buy them. So they went out back and wrapped them up for me while I was looking around the store. So go in at the start, show them, and sometimes they will go out the back and spend about 10 minutes wrapping them up, pricing them up for you. Hadn't heard of this game before, but 01, a racing game. So that was pretty cool. Tried to pick up the GTA series as well. So you got GTA 3 in Japanese, Vice City in Japanese, San Andreas, I pronounced that right, in Japanese, all for about 11 or 12 bucks. So it's a pretty cool series to have. And because these games sold so well, there's heaps of them around. For some reason, Fanavision was about $1. I got this from the shop under Shibuya Scramble as well. So again, it was like $1. So if you are there, you can buy them. I went a bit crazy. I know, it was like 88 games. I got rumbled at the post office when they said, GameSoft, how many? And I'm like, I had to count them all to post them. And yeah, I might have got rumbled by Mrs. Crabman. This looks like some sort of version, a little bit like Wii Music or some sort of rhythm game, so I thought that could be cool. Oh, I forgot about this game. This was something I was really, really amazed by when I found it. And it is a McDonald's tie-in with Parappa the Rapper and Ape Escape. So even though it was secondhand, it was still like fairly, not pricey, but around $12 or $13. But I'm really looking forward to getting this up on the channel. I don't think this was released anywhere else. You kind of have like an Ape Escape level, and then Parappa the Rapper, it might be Parappa the Rapper 2, but like a special McDonald's song and level where you're cooking in a McDonald's. So I do plan to put that up on the channel. I just thought any kind of brand tie-in is amazing to have. Like, this is a PS2 game with McDonald's on the logo, which is absolutely insane. And then I bought this, and then I think we went to a McDonald's, so that was pretty funny as well. I am gonna butcher the name of this, but like Drum and Fun, I'm not even gonna pronounce it because it's gone blank in my memory. I think it's like Tatsu no something. It's gone in my memory, but drumming game. These are like on the Switch and stuff now on the PS4, so you can play them there. But this is one of the originals. Old RPGs I like. I've actually never played Xenosaga. There's episode 2 for $1 whole, but it's pretty cool. I don't know if there's one disc or two. I haven't really opened the discs for you. Oh, there we go. 2 discs for $1. But I know in a lot of Japanese households, they don't have space to have massive hordes of collections like Crabman does. So yeah, they tend to move them back to stores, and maybe they're getting hoovered up and sent over the world. I love, love, love SSX as a series, and I love this cover. This box art is so much better than the Power box art. This is amazing. So I love the SSX series. I believe this is the first game. Second game's Tricky. Third game I think is just called 3. But I played this and Tricky a lot. My brother had a PS2 when it first came out, and he had SSX, and I just played it non-stop when he would let me, or if he wasn't at home. Tales of Rebirth, which is one of the Tales games that didn't get released in the West. I love the Tales series. I've played most of them. Grace's F is my favorite. I love Zillia 2. Zestiria I didn't really like. I don't think people did. Berseria was good as well. And oh my goodness, the newest one, Arise, I liked that as well. I played that last year. Here we go, Katamari. Fantastic. I love the Katamari series. I've played it a little bit. I got Katamari Forever on the Vita. I think, is this Beautiful Katamari? I've forgotten at the moment because a lot of them have similar names. I think this is Beautiful Katamari. There's some sort of little bug floating around in there. Get that out of the way. But I do like the Katamari series. Now, I didn't really know this existed because I have played Star Ocean to the End of Time on the PS2, but I didn't know there was a director's cut. Sometimes games will get released in Japan and then released in the West, but they've had an extra year to make them better, essentially, and then they would get re-released in Japan as a kind of special edition or director's cut, or I think Final Fantasy X was like Final Fantasy X International, so they would iron out a few bugs and then re-release it again, which is pretty good. Everybody's Golf 2. Oh no, Tennis. This is Tennis. I've got Golf on the PS1. These games are just so simple and so fun, so they're pretty awesome. I also finally managed to buy a little Pocket Station. I've wanted one of these little things for so long, ever since I saw it in the Final Fantasy VIII instruction book when I was a kid, and I'm like, when are these coming out? The bad news is the battery's flat, but I'll need to replace the battery, but it means it was a lot cheaper. I think a working one was about $35-40, and this one was like $17, so hopefully it works. And what I didn't really, I kind of knew, but it's actually a memory card, so that's how you plug it in. So you pull that up, you slide that in your PS1, and use your games. And I've got a couple of PS1 games that were specific Pocket Station games, which you'll see. I think it's Stocky Deki Ismo. I've or Doki Demo Ismo, and there's another one as well that are specific PocketStation games. All right, on to the PS1. Okay, for the PS1, I have Tetris, because everyone knows how to play Tetris. That is pretty awesome. I didn't even know there was a Tetris game for the PS1. We've got Everybody's Golf 2, which is pretty cool. I think this is on the PSP collection right now, obviously in English. If you have that top tier, you can play the retro games. I think this game's on there too, Intelligence Cube, but for 110 yen, it was definitely good to pick up. This game I didn't really know much about depth, but I think it was about 50 yen, so I kind of a sucker for anything either A, cheap or unusual or any of the above. I'll pick it up. Something that I don't believe was released in the West. Now, this isn't Chocobo Racing, but this is like the Chocobo RPG. So it was like a little mini RPG featuring Chocobos. So I think it was about $5, so it wasn't that expensive. And the price might be under here, but it looks pretty cool and would have, oh gee, it's got stuff in it. Oh no, my receipt, 2,000 yen. I bought a few games. Looks like it's got 2 discs as well. So must have been a fairly sizable RPG. But to be honest, I don't know a lot about it. So because it was Final Fantasy themed, I picked it up. We got Beatmania, so dance simulation games, easy to play. We've got a Gundam game. I think that looks okay. It might have a little crack there, but that's okay. I think that's why it was so cheap. That's probably what it says there. Maybe it got cracked in transit. So you do have to help. Sometimes games are in English on the spine. They haven't really shown the spines that much. What I do like, if I can find a game that does it, is I'll show you the next game with the most adorable title ever. It's called Nyanta Wonderful. It will have Japanese on one side and it will have English on the other. Sometimes you do need some help because when you're in there, it's so overwhelming and you've just got rows of games that look like this. So you either have to flick through one by one, or hope sometimes stores display them like this and then you can at least see the cover and know what you're buying. Otherwise, flicking through thousands of games like this of all different prices is pretty hard. But this looks so sweet. Nyanta Wonderful. All right, we've got, I think this is Gundam as well, Generation 0. Which, yeah, special. Oh, there we go. SD Gundam Generation 0. G Generation 0 on the side. Might have been an old wrestling stable called Generation 0 floating around somewhere in Crabman's past. There's a little Easter egg for you there. All right, I found wrestling. So, All Japan Pro Wrestling 2 for the PS1. So these games, quite similar to the kind of N64 WCW games. This one, I'm just going to go through the wrestling games. I mixed these ones up a little bit, but for the Sega Saturn. So this one is another All Japan Pro Wrestling game featuring a couple of Virtua Fighter characters. So I asked the store, I think this was Super Potato, do you have this game? And then they went and grabbed it out the back for me as well. I found this in a different store, but Giant Graham, I think it's All Japan Pro Wrestling 2. It is because it says it on there. Oh yeah, it definitely helps. All Japan Pro Wrestling 2 Nippo Rudakan. So I think that is Giant Baba there on the cover. I apologize if not. I don't have a Dreamcast, but I just thought for $5 or $6 that was too good to pass up. And then I was going to try and find a few more Saturn games if I'd unlocked my Saturn, but I didn't really find that many that interested me. Plus, I was getting a bit overwhelmed, and as you can see, I also got a lot of other games. Fighting Illusion, even though I'm more into wrestling, sometimes I don't mind the old MMA game as well. So Fighting Illusion, I think it's like K1 Fighting Illusion, perhaps, or that could be a different game, but actually no, that is a different game. But I've got Fighting Illusion. Little soccer game. I kind of like these because these are like the really original, really chunky PS1 graphics from 1995, 1996. As you can see, what do we got? What does it say there? 1995. So this is real start of the PS1. Literally just moved into the 3D era. DX Jinsai Game 2. Again, it just looked cool. I think it's some sort of board game, perhaps. Look, honestly, I don't know. Let's keep going. These were the PocketStation games. So there's 3, I believe, that I'll get ready. So this one is Konomomo Isyo. So it just looks so sweet. Look at this little character. I've forgotten this character's name. But use this with the PocketStation here, and you can play some little games. So I thought that was nice. Yeah, Dokodemo Isyo, which is what I probably didn't pronounce correctly before. And then this one as well, Pocket Moo. So Pocket Moo's got a little bit of tape hanging on there. There's another one that uses these pocket stations in little games as well, which looks pretty good. We're near the end. For some reason, I got these from 2 different places, but Final Fantasy VII, which is $1 for a Japanese version, so maybe I can give that to someone. So they're not in the most immaculate condition, but, they weren't very much money. Yeah, they both got a little crack on there, but, that's fine. That's okay. What an iconic game. Looking forward to, I think it's Rebirth coming out next year. When I played the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's kind of what blew up on the channel to start with initially in 2020. So you can check out my playthrough of that. I think because in Australia it released on, I think April 1st and the rest of the world April 10. So I put it up when most people couldn't play it. And that's really how the channel got started. We've got another racing game. I got this one. I know it's like Mahjong and I'm probably never going to play that, but it was the first of this Simple series, which was like low budget simple games that would get released for a real value price. So I think there's like 100 of these simple games, but because it was number 1, I picked it up. Another one I asked the staff for, Fire Pro Wrestling G. So you're probably familiar with the Fire Pro Wrestling series. There's Fire Pro Wrestling on the PS4 and Xbox kind of Series SX as well. The games all pretty much play the same. Couple more. Weird looking Tetris game that's not Tetris, but Breakthrough, but looks like Russian Tetris, which I know is where it originated from. But yeah, some kind of, it's either Tetris knockoff or the original Tetris, one or the other. Couple of games to go. We are nearly done. Ridge Racer Revolution. So another cool game to have in the collection. Yeah, definitely going to play all of these like 88 games, but I always have every intention. Last few. Now, I didn't pick up many games for the DS, but a game that I did pick up because I'm a fan of the Tales series is Tales of the Tempest. And so I just thought it was a few dollars to stick on the shelf there as well to pop it up. Monster Hunter was like 110 yen. They had so many of these, I think, because the game is so popular. Now, I'm not sure if the black cover is new 3DS because white seems to be normal 3DS, or I'm not really sure. So maybe it was just black as a style. I think the black ones needed the new 3DS for the extra processing power. Puzzle and Dragons looks like a little cool puzzle game. And then this one looked really cool. Sadly, this was at the bottom of the box, so it got a little bit squished, but Run for Money. I just love the cover art. And yes, sadly, we got a little bit broken, but looked pretty good. And I got one last game to show you. Quite hard to convert these over, so just be a nice little display piece. But Dragon Quest Victory, I think there's a little bit more than that in there, but it looks like a pretty cool game as well, or just cool artwork to have on the shelf. All right, thanks for going through my collection with me.